we'll start over. At least we'll start.
All right, let me see if I can paraphrase. So you were saying that the question is when we're asking about what is the ultimate nature of reality, we're trying to figure out what is a coherent understanding of what reality is. And from my perspective, I don't see any problem with just saying it's just matter and energy and motion, just a bunch of multiverses. And that seems to be coherent from my perspective. And then what would be your response to that?
Okay, well, the thing is that if we're just going to talk about finite entities, I feel that you've stopped the explanatory movement,
Sure.
and so what you're just telling me is that we're going to just stop the explanatory movement, and so if I and and that it's just going to be fine, kind of. And so I think to myself, if look, if I think what you need to ask me like is why is it that I think we can't stop the explanatory movement? And the reason is that I think that finite being or modes of being can't account for being. That's the issue here. The issue is has to do with being, with existence. And what I think they can finite modes are particular things, and you've named them, such as like gases and energy and kind of whatnot. But again, I think the problem though is that these things are modes of being, and so they do have existence, and their existence is not just simply like a property like H2O or some sort of property of having like a certain molecules go to other molecules, or certain atoms do this to other atoms, or like law of gravitation, or this type of thing. These are more what I might consider to be properties if I have to think like that. But essentially, the issue is just existence itself, and so things that are not things that are not fully existent, by which I mean they are just limited existence, they're limited beings. Well, they pose the question. They themselves pose the question, and so the question they pose is, what about their existence? And existence is not, again, it's not just, when I say existence, I don't just mean, like having a certain bone structure, this, that, next thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about existence as, and that's why I spend so much time talking about Carl Sagan and sort of the wonder of things actually being, but again, you and me may agree though that if we don't think in terms of things as modes of being or modes of existence or finite, and if we don't think about the law of non-contradiction in terms of being and non-being, and therefore different degrees of existence, and if we don't think in terms of the reality of existence, essentially, I'm trying to talk about the reality of thinking in terms of existence.
You mentioned that you said that finite things could not explain their own existence. Why not? Because from my perspective, why would you need a non-finite thing, and how could a non-finite thing explain its own existence in a sense that a finite thing could not?
Well, I mean, like, explain is a tough word here. I'm not trying to like bring some non-finite thing. By the way, in the reality that we know it empirically, there is no non-finite thing. Under this way I understand it. So in this world of existing things, there is no non-finite thing.
Right. But my question is that you said that the limited things that I believe exist in the universe, like the multiverse or whatever, they can't explain their own existence. I don't know if explain would be the right word to use there, but you're
Yeah.
saying,
What I meant for like is account for.
okay, I
Account
can't
for
for it. Let's go with that.
essentially
So,
that they're just they're modes of being, but they have being. They
right.
have being,
So they can't
but they don't.
account for being.
They are not being, and so what that means essentially is that they can be more or they can be less.
Right.
They are just they're modes of being, and so they're what then you start getting, if you are thinking along these lines, then you realize that they are they that to understand them, you have to understand existence. Like what do we mean when we say existence? Do you say
Sure,
that?
sure. But that's my question is that why couldn't they account for their being in a way that is the same as a non-finite being could account for its being?
And I'm not.
So, for example, you said a finite things cannot account for their being, but that means that some non-finite thing can or does in some way. And why can't that way in which it does account for its being, the non-finite being, why can't a finite being also account for its being in the same way? What is the problem there? Why is there a need to be a difference?
Huh. Okay. Well, you're taking me by surprise with. Okay. The bottom line is I'm not asking if there is any non-finite, any pure existence, like infinite existence, something that is not a mode of existence, but is that in which all finite modes, from which all finite modes receive existence. And of course, that in itself would need, it'd be essentially, the main point is this, is that if there were such a thing, it would be completely it would be not able to be accounted for in our minds. I mean, we couldn't explain, we can't explain it. You see what I mean? The word that's not. I'm not trying to explain. I'm not here to explain God to you, kind of.
Right, right, exactly. Like you mentioned earlier, you said that I was trying to stop the explanation at the finite multiverse and saying there was nothing more beyond that. And you said, well, why should we stop the thing there and not say there is this other thing, the God thing that gives things existence? And I'm saying, well, what's the difference?
No, I don't want to go there yet, though, because I
Okay.
never did, though, want to really.
Okay. So yeah, so my position is
What I'm trying to say is something different from that, but I'm just stumbling. I'm stumbling over my words because I'm not good at speaking.
yes, that's
That's the
fine.
problem. And
But yeah,
what I'm
so
trying to say is that I don't want to talk about God. I mean, that would be last thing that I think would be fun at this moment, because it's at my time it's 8 o'clock, and so I'm tired, But let's not talk about God.
that's
The
fine.
main point, though, is that I am. What I'm saying is that if you have an aggregate of a finite existent, which is your aggregate, it or a limited, it's just a limited mode of being, it doesn't account for existence. It doesn't account for its existence at all. And so there's what I'm trying to say is that at this stage of my rambling is that this is a problem. But if I can't get you to agree that it's a problem, then I suspect that's probably going to be due to my own limitations.
Well,
Again,
I think I understand what you're saying, but from my perspective, the problem can be solved in the same way for a universe as it can for a God, for example. When I talk to other theologians,
I mean, I don't want to talk about God.
right,
Why, but,
right. So from my perspective, other theologians say they have, because I've talked with other Thomistic philosophers before, and their solution to this problem of the idea of a finite things can't explain their own existence is that there is this other thing that can, a non-finite thing that can explain it. And I'm just saying, well, actually, we can have that with just the multiverse. The multiverse can explain its own or can account for its own existence just fine, just in the same way a God could potentially account for its own existence. And so any solution for this problem that can exist for a non-universe.
How are you talking about God already? I mean, I'm concerned that I must have done something wrong. You're the atheist.
Right.
I don't want you talking about God. That'd be terrible. Aren't I supposed to be the one talking about God? You're the atheist, so you're not allowed to talk about God because you don't. That'd be my view. At least unless we want to change roles.
Oh, right.
So,
my point is that the universe can account for its own being just fine. There's no problem with that at all. And it doesn't matter if it's limited.
Okay, well then there must be some mistake that I've made in describing being to you. Because the universe can't account for its own being. That's not possible.
Why not? Why can't it just be a part of its own nature?
Wait, what do you mean its own nature? Its nature is finite being. It's a mode of being. And so its nature.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say that its nature of being energy has that.
I mean, what do you mean by nature? Anyway, what do you mean by nature? I mean, I'm just trying to talk about things, man.
Yeah.
I'm talking about reality, just like we were talking about a second ago. And I thought that we'd agreed that that these were all finite modes.
Sure. I can agree with that, but it doesn't need finite modes can explain its own existence just fine. There's no problem with that. There's no reason that a finite being couldn't account for its own being. Why would that be an issue?
No, but account in terms of look, the thing is that finite things are not being. In other words, like to exist, if you're a finite thing, is a contingent thing. I mean, it's a contingent reality. I mean, you don't have to exist. No finite thing has to exist. What are you talking about? I mean, I'm not clear on what you're. I mean, like, look.
Right. I agree that no.
When I say account for, I'm talking about some kind of, explanation that doesn't involve like pure contingency and radical, like radical surprise or.
Right. So I agree.
Here.
So I agree with you that none of the particulars, they're all contingent. None of them necessarily need to exist, but the set as a whole does need to necessarily exist.
No, it doesn't. No, because it too is a limited thing. It's just as limited as the rabbit outside my window right now.
How so? I see reality as the set, so reality isn't limited in that sense. Reality is the necessary set. It can't not exist.
No, reality is just a limited mode of being. It may be a greater one, just like Elon Musk is greater than me and or President Obama or something, but it's still just a limited mode. I mean, but see, that gets back to all the arguments that we were having before, though.
Well,
I honestly thought we'd come to an agreement. Just that. Look, anything that is limited mode is just a limited mode. It doesn't. You can't like. I mean, a limited mode is contingent in the sense that it doesn't have to be. That's sort of definitional. Because that rabbit, it exists. It's a limited mode of being. It doesn't have to exist, but it does. It's kind of like, wow, there it is.
Right. I think that I might disagree with you on. So I agree that every one of the individual parts of reality is contingent, but reality itself isn't. Reality can't be contingent. Reality is necessarily existing.
No, not in its empirical. No, because all reality is, as you and I defined it, is just a bunch of empirical finite things, and so that whole set itself is just an empirical finite thing. It's nothing that kind of has some sort of transcendental status, any more than if I said that, like, let's say I were to say that the human race has to exist. And I'd say that, well, any of us could die, but the human race has to exist. Well, that's not the case. That's not the case at all. It's so the aggregate doesn't at all mean that that you could give me the greatest aggregate in the world, but it doesn't mean that it has to exist at all. No. it's just a finite mode. It's a limited mode. It can't. I mean, its existence is a wonder. It's amazing. It's just like, how did that happen? And so even if you gave me like a million multiverses, they're all, or like infinite multiverses, the total aggregate is just simply finite mode of being. And the only way we could say is like, who knows how that comes to be? Who knows how that exists? Because it's not existence per se. So therefore, it's just a wonder. It's a surprise. Who knows how? It's just, and we can say, well, it's just there. It's just there. And I might ask you, like, could it have never been there?
Yeah, I would say no. I would say
no, but the truth is, the answer would have to be yes.
No, I would disagree with that. I would say no.
I tell you what, though. See, all I want to say then is we're not disagreeing about God at all. We're disagreeing about empirical things, at least so far as I understand it. We're disagreeing just about the reality that one sees, because I'm not talking about God. I'm not trying to say a single word about God. I'm just saying that if you were to tell me that like the solar system had to exist, or the soul, and I'd say, no, man, no, it doesn't have to. I mean, I don't agree. And then you tell me that the universe has this. I say, no way. And I don't agree, because the universe is just a set of finite things. That sure, it has gases and this and energies, and I say, no way does it have to exist, because it's completely contingent. It's a mode of being. It's just an aggregate of a bunch of things that are finite modes of being. The universe itself has finite mode of being. It doesn't have to be. It is. I mean, it is. So I just say, wow, here it is. I don't know how it's here. I can't account for its being. I know that it is. I know that it has a nature, but I can't. I mean, like, how in the world? It's contingent. It's totally contingent in the sense that it doesn't have to be, and its being doesn't. There's no way of making sense that its being comes from itself. In other words, like if you're trying to tell me like the universe's being comes from itself, or like the multiverse's being comes from itself, well, like how could you even say that? Because would you be saying that like some finite entities within the multiverse pour out this being to everything? The whole thing doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, like, where does what is the source of this being? And then you see, what you would be telling me is that you might just say, hey, the things exist, or you might tell me being is just like a logical property. It's just there. And I'd say in both cases, I'd say, look, things don't just exist. This is contingent, and it's just like, whoa. And then I would say, no, being is not a logical property. Being is something that things have but are not. In other words, I am not being, you are not being, the universe is not being, the multiverse is not being. We are finite modes of being. We have being, but we are not being. And so therefore we are absolutely contingent. And the universe is just as contingent as I am, and so is the multiverse, because it's just a finite, mode of being. And so I'm trying to talk about reality.
Right. So I just want to clarify.
What you and I define as reality, which is just like empirical stuff. I'm talking about empirical stuff.
Right. I agree. All empirical things are contingent, but I would say that the substance of reality itself, which I call energy, isn't. It's necessarily existing. Reality can't not exist. And the substance that makes up reality, which is energy, can't not exist because it is reality. So I'd say those are necessary things.
I mean, like, what in the world? What in the world? That I can't agree with there, because, and so it sounds like we didn't agree what we thought reality was. See, so that's the problem, is that I never agreed. I never, in our earlier conversation, I never said that I thought there was some sort of like inner stuff that was somehow sort of had to be, or something like some inner, like what like, is it, look, if it involves atoms, if it involves like, and I thought energy was some sort of something we can measure. I didn't realize it was some kind of like a something that could give being or something, or that was being. Energy. No, that energy is just finite. It's just finite mode as like everything else.
Well, no, I totally disagree with that. We can measure the impacts of energy and we can measure some aspects of energy. We can't measure the whole of energy at all. So energy is a necessary foundation to reality. You can't have reality without it. So I'd say it's a necessary
I agree there. Like you got to have, for the reality that we know, you got to have energy. I'm
Well,
agreeing.
I'd say for any reality, reality itself entails energy.
Oh, no, I don't. I'm not talking about. I mean, like, again, I don't know about possible worlds and I don't even know what energy means. Like I know that I do know that our universe has energy. I mean, that I know, but energy, yeah, you must be. See, again, I'm just as bad at science as I am at philosophy. You're not talking about the energy that I used to know, like E equals mc squared, are you?
Yeah, that energy, when that refers to the substance that makes up reality, that's what energy means.
No, but even Einstein knew that E equals E here doesn't indicate some sort of, it's just some sort of, it's a mode of being. I mean, it's a finite reality. It's not existence.
Well, no, I think that's exactly what general relativity and special relativity say, is that E is the substance of reality itself. It is time and space themselves emerge from energy. That is the point of E equals mc squared in special relativity. So energy, E equals mc squared is a measurement of a translation of energy, but energy itself...
I've been tricked. I think, okay, but so look, the bottom line though is that we're not disagreeing. I just want for our YouTube viewers, if any have made it this far from my ramblings, that we're not disagreeing about God. I'm not disagreeing about God with you.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about God at all yet, so I don't really...
Yeah, and I just wanted to be clear to anyone who hears me that I do not think that I'm disagreeing with you about God.
Sure.
I know what I'm disagreeing with you about now. I'm disagreeing with you about this thing that you're calling energy, and whether it is contingent in the sense of its existence. And I am saying that in terms of its existence, it is possible for it to be or not to be, because it is not pure, to be, So I think it's a finite mode of being. It's possible for it to be or not to be. I'm not saying, by the way, that in the multiverses, you could have multiverses without, at least multiverses like we know. I'm certainly not saying that you could have multiverses without energy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that you don't have to have multiverses. You don't have to have anything, because this is a radically contingent thing that you're talking about here. And so that's my point, is that I just think you don't have to have this. You don't have to have multiverses at all. You don't have to have, but for me, reality, the way that we described it empirically, is a very radically contingent thing. But nonetheless, it's here. And so I rejoice. I'm glad that reality is here, and I believe in it. But I think it's absolutely contingent, and it doesn't account for its own being. The only thing that we can say is like, wow, here it is.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely where we disagree, because I think energy is fundamental to reality. You can't have reality without energy. You can't have energy without reality.
I think energy is fundamental to any sort of empirical reality, any sort of like reality as we can know and perceive in terms of the kind of things you can do with science or something. I mean, I'm not trying to say that you can have stars, or have universes without energy.
Oh, right, right. I'm going further than that. I'm saying that energy is required in any universe ever, no matter what. You can't have anything without energy. Energy is the substance of reality.
I agree with that. But the one thing I'm not going to say is that energy itself is not contingent. You don't have to have universes. You don't have to have anything.
What do you mean?
You don't have to have multiverses. You don't have to have energy. Energy is it's a finite mode of being, and you don't have to have multiverses. You don't have to have anything.
What do you mean? Because when I see, like, we exist in the universe, and so it seems to me that because there is energy now, that means, and we can't take away its being, we can't make it stop existing from all time eternally. It must necessarily exist. It can't ever not exist, no matter what. So I think it seems...
No. there, see, you're kind of you're shifting gears in a way that I would see. You're saying, again, I thought we were just talking about like accounting for the kind of the you know we were talking about like kinds of being. Remember we talked about rabbits and trees and so on and stuff. Again, my point is not that they aren't. In fact, I'm willing to grant, that for any. I mean, I'd grant a bunch of stuff. Like you'd have to have gravity for any kind of universe. You'd have to have, you know, atomic structure of some kind or something. You see what I'm trying to say? Like if all we're talking about is kind of like constituent finite elements of any universes or multiverses or whatever Earths. But again, that to me that's not the issue here at all because
Right, I agree. So my position isn't that we need universes, it's not that we need gravity, it's not that we need atoms or trees or rabbits. I'm saying that energy is required though. So even if we get rid of all of the universes, all of the multiverses, all of everything we could ever empirically measure, energy is still going to be there regardless. Energy is necessarily a fundamental part of reality, in my view.
oh no.
How
Okay,
so?
okay.
Why would you disagree with that?
I don't understand. So we're disagreeing on like a scientific point, and as far as I'm concerned, I mean that'd be what I'd say. Again, I'm not denying that in if you have to have multiverses or if you have to have universes, you're going to have energy.
Oh, right. I'm not saying you can get rid of all the multiverses, all of the universes. I'm saying we can get rid of everything empirically
Yeah.
demonstrable, but we can never get rid of energy.
Okay,
Energy
okay,
is just
okay. I don't understand. I mean, I just simply don't. Okay, so to me, we're just disagreeing on a scientific point, then, and so we'd have to like reconvene because you're.
well, I mean, I don't think so because the first law of thermodynamics is energy can never be created or destroyed. So energy is
No, but that's only within that's only like within the structures of I mean, look, it doesn't mean that energy. That's not about being.
well, I think it
That's
is. I think that's kind of in science, especially in Einstein's general and special relativity. That's kind of what it means is that energy is the fundamental stuff of reality. It can never be created or destroyed. It's not a contingent thing at all in science. It is the fundamental thing.
no. But it's still a finite mode of being. It's not an infinite mode of being. I mean, but again, honestly, I think we're disagreeing on a scientific matter. Do you want to you see what I'm trying to say is that that the problem now is that um we're disagreeing about the nature. I assume you're talking about energy as scientists understand it. I mean, that's what I assume you're talking about energy the way that Carl Sagan would understand it,
Yep. Yep.
or any scientist, Einstein or whatever,
Hmm.
But no, that would be, in my view, energy is among the finite constituents, and even if you want to say that it's in some way like the fundamental. I mean, like if you talk to who's the guy, Stephen Hawking or whatever, you know, or some of these others, then they would say that the law of gravity is the fundamental thing. But at least that's what I understood them to say. When I read their books, they seem, as far as I can tell, to say that the quantum law of gravity is the fundamental thing that is sort of present in a radical way, but they don't seem to say that energy is. But
Well, all of those different fields, the Higgs field, the gravity field, the Heisenberg's field, all those different fields are just different forms of energy. They're fields in energy, so that would still be energy in the physical sense. But
look, yeah, maybe so, but so
but,
okay,
but
so
I
you're
just wanted to clarify because
saying that we
earlier,
have. Okay, so you're saying that they're saying what you're saying. That way, all you're saying is what Hawking is saying, or something like that. You're just saying that like the quantum law. Like if they say there's a quantum law, that's what you mean. Like the very existence of a quantum law is what you mean by energy. I take it that's what you're saying.
well, the laws describe regularities in energy. Energy is itself the substance of that makes up all of the laws or all of the things that the laws do. But I just wanted,
and so you're saying that that's what they would say.
yeah.
That in other words, like I'm just trying to track along here. I didn't realize that we're going to be disagreeing about science. So and that okay. So, but it's clear to me that's what we're disagreeing about. Is we're just disagreeing about natural science.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think anyone in any of the natural scientists would say energy is contingent. No one, as far as I know, ever says that. In fact, it's the laws of thermodynamics say it's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Now remember, also there'd be another person who would say that energy is not contingent, and that person would be me. Because I have never said that you could have like a universe or a multiverse, without energy. That wouldn't make much sense. So I never thought it in my brain. I mean, I never thought. I don't know. I'm not an expert on these matters. So if some scientist were to come tell me that you could have a universe without energy, who am I to say? But my point is just this: is that energy, where you and I are disagreeing, is that I see quantum laws, force fields, and all these things, energy, everything that you describe as a mode of an existing thing. It exists, but in a limited mode, and so therefore, it's not being. It's therefore it can exist more or less. You can have more or less energy. It can exist more energy, lots of energy, or very little energy, tiny little bit of energy, and so on. So I just think it's one of these things that can exist more or less, and it's a finite mode of it's what I call a limited mode or finite mode of being, and according to the way I just said it's an existent, that can exist more or less. But if I don't know, so you could have like a universe that had more energy. You could have a universe that had much less energy, and so on. So it's a finite thing. It's a limited kind of thing. It's a kind of thing just like all the other kind of things. It may be a kind of thing that you can't do without to have a universe. I say fine. So that you and I are not disagreeing there. We'd be disagreeing though on this issue of whether it, in some way, energy was not some sort of finite mode of being that also falls into the same problem with all the other finite modes of being, which is namely that they are not to be, they are not being, and so. And I don't know. So I just think, to me, energy is contingent. It says it could be or it could not be, and if it weren't, then there wouldn't be anything. But I think that's perfectly possible. I mean that there never would have been anything ever, in terms of any kind of finite things at all. No universes, no anything. Perfectly possible.
Well, could there be, if there's no finite things, would there still necessarily be a non-finite thing?
Well, wait a second. I'm not going to be tricked into like arguing about God before I've done arguing about reality.
Well, that's my contention is that there could never not be something. There always has to be something. Something must always necessarily exist.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, not at all, not at all. But in terms of if we're arguing about like reality as you and I'm not arguing about God here.
Well, right. I'm not mentioning God. I don't believe in God, but I believe that there is always necessarily.
Okay.
But since even though I don't believe in God, I believe there is always necessarily something. Something must always necessarily exist. There can never ever be a philosophical nothing.
No, gracious, no, of course not. No, that's not the case, because none of these things that you've described has to be. And so in all these things, if they are, it's like, wow, how did they come? I'm just talking about now, energy, force fields, and anything you want, fields of this, fields of that, fields of quantum, anything, it's just like, how did that come to be? It doesn't have to be. It's a limited mode of being, it's a pretty good one, and it can be more, it can be less. It's definitely not being.
Well, that's where I think I don't think I understand your position, because From my position, there can't ever be a philosophical nothing. There must be something that always exists, no matter what. It has to exist for there to be anything, and that thing for me is energy.
Wait, I never said there had to be anything.
What?
I never said there had to be
Yeah,
anything.
this is my position. From my position, there always has to be something. It's not possible for there to be a philosophical nothing where there is just literally nothing. There always has to be something there.
Okay. Well, look. If I decide to agree with that, all I can tell you though is that whatever that thing might be, it can't be a finite mode of being.
Why not? I don't see any problem with that because I can just be energy, and energy doesn't need to be non-finite.
Finite modes of being are just things that are radically contingent. That's what a finite mode of being is. It's not.
I mean, you can define it that way if you want, but I don't see a problem here. So I see energy as just the fundamental nature of reality, and it can be in greater or lesser amounts. Like you can compress it, tie it into knots, build a universe out of it. And you can have two universes made out of different energies, and one has more energy and one has less energy. Like one person has more weight, one person has less weight. But that doesn't mean the energy itself is finite just because it can be parsed or compiled in different kinds of configurations. It still seems like there's no problem with just saying the energy itself is the fundamental thing that exists necessarily, and we can just configure it in different ways, like a knot with a string.
No, but it's just a limited mode, though. I don't know what. Again, the problem was as we begin to think about the term. Okay, well, I guess in part we're arguing over a scientific matter, but then in part we're, I guess in part we're having a philosophical argument also about things because, and I don't see myself as able to kind of make it so. Look, I've tried to kind of give you what I think here, which is just that a finite mode. Remember, I'll try to define my terms again, but finite modes of being, can't account for the fact that they are. They in some way they are, but it's something given. It's something, a surprise. It's not from in their internal resources here. Again, what we're not talking about when I say account for that they are. I'm not talking about accounting for different modes of being, such as like I can account for the fact that I'm sitting here breathing. I can account for that. You see what I'm saying? Like if you want me to, if I'm just gonna, if that's what I mean by account for something, I could say, well, look, it's because I have a heart. I have a body. You see that sperm and egg came together, and I have a body, a heart formed, and a brain stem and nervous system, and so that's why I am. And I wouldn't be if I didn't have a heart. I'd be either never conceived or dead or something. Well, look, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the fact that finite things can be or cannot be, and that includes myself, yourself, and all finite things in the entire known realm. They can be or they cannot be, and that means that they exist. And so I'm agreeing with you, that energy exists. I think we're in firm agreement there. but where we're not in agreement is that energy in some way can account for its existence any better than I can, and I can account for my existence pretty well. For example, I just say that the reason I exist because I have a heart, it's beating. I have a body. You see, I can give you all sorts of reasons why I exist. And I'm sure that energy, has plenty of reasons why it exists too.
Well, I think I would disagree. I'd say energy is existence. I think that would be the best way to express it.
Okay,
Energy
but
is existence.
that makes no sense. That
Also,
makes no sense. No more. So that for me, I can't agree with you that any particular kind of reality is existence. you see, I mean, there that doesn't make any sense because it's just a finite mode of existence. It itself is a mode. It can exist more or less. And so on. See, so there we can't agree, and so that's why I think we're having we're having like a maybe we're having philosophical difference. Look, I can't tell exactly, but we're not disagreeing about God. That's the only thing I'm sure about.
Sure, yeah, but I see no problem with just saying energy is existence, even though we can take energy and build it into different parts. It still exists and doesn't exist. It's just a dichotomy. So there's more energy because we're just taking the existence and compiling it.
Does existence have to exist?
Yes, I think. I don't know.
Okay. So does the energy in this I mean, like, so are you saying that for you, in your view, the energy in this universe has to exist?
Yes, it just doesn't have to exist in this configuration. The energy has to exist.
Yeah, but the energy has to exist.
Right, energy has to exist.
Okay, but energy is just based on a number of things, other things. Remember, energy itself is reducible, is it not? I mean, I
don't know. I don't think so. I think that energy is the fundamental thing in all of science. I don't think it reduces to anything. I don't think any view in science says energy reduces to something.
Okay, well, how in the world could it be more or less if it doesn't have, I mean, I asked that. I mean, you're confusing me, to be honest with you. This is something I didn't expect at all.
Well, yeah, so energy we measure energy, and so there's like more existence in a universe than there is in an apple because there's just more particles in the universe than the apple. So
are all universes have the same amount of energy? I'm confused.
No, energy is just
a multiverse. Can I get more or less energy or total?
Sure, yeah, you can have more or less existence. Definitely.
Would I have more energy than I do if let's just say there's only one universe, just this universe, and there are no multiverses at all.
Okay.
Okay, so does this universe have more or less energy or the same amount of energy as a multiverse would have?
It would have less. So just like, for example, a person who lives for 80 years would have more existence in the fact that they live longer than a person who lived 20 years. A multiverse would have more existence than a universe that only had one.
Yeah, okay, but remember, that's not what I mean by existence. Remember, because existence is not just life, or it's not just not just remember a living thing. Existence is not just life. Life is a mode of existence. So you can have a dead thing that doesn't exist. Do you see what I'm saying? So as soon as we have like more or less, or modes or degrees and so on, then we're dealing with something that is not self-explanatory in terms of existence. It may be self-explanatory in terms of in terms of science or something like that, but it's not self-explanatory in terms of existence. But the truth is, honestly, I'm not sure how we would possibly.
Well, for me, it's just like different phraseologies. For example, you can talk about the parts and the whole, like the door is a part of the house and the house itself is the whole. And so existence as a whole there's no more or less of the existence as a whole, but you can have more or less of the parts of the whole. So for example, if we talk about energy is the parts of the whole, which is just the composite of everything. So even though the whole there's no more or less of, which is existence itself. The parts, which is just the measurable energy, you can have more or less of, just like you can have more or less of a house.
Honestly, there's something wrong with this. I mean, there's a number of things wrong, but for example, first of all, energy is not the same thing as I mean by existence. It's certainly not the same thing as like the law of non-contradiction means by existence. That would be sure, but it's like again, if you can't say it's when you say to be or not to be in the same way at the same time, you're not talking about you're just not talking about energy there, because energy itself fits into that. Energy itself has to obey the law of non-contradiction, in the sense that.
Is there anything that can't obey the law of non-contradiction?
Mercy, but the law is not less logical, though. The law has to do with being, existence. See, it's not just logical. It's not a logic thing.
Or yeah, I, mean,
So
I would agree. I would say that.
the bottom line is that energy is one of the things under the law of non-contradiction, because energy is not being.
Well,
It's
is
not being
being
itself. It's not being itself.
is being above the law of non-contradiction in some way? Because I think being applies to the law of non-contradiction.
No, being being is, remember, the law of contradiction is non-contradiction is about being. It either is or it isn't in the same way, in the same place. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's
Well,
what
I
the law of
don't quite.
non-contradiction has to do with being. Yeah, so you're exactly right. The law of non-contradiction has to do with being, and being is something of a mystery, because all we know is finite beings, and one of those finite beings is energy, and energy, fits into the law of non-contradiction. You can't have, if you have like 10 whatever of energy, it can't also have 3 of energy in the same way and in the same place, or something like that. I mean, so yeah, energy is one of the things that the law of non-contradiction, which is about being, has to do with. But the law of non-contradiction is about being, and being is not the same as energy. And so, and I think the law of non-contradiction shows that. But
Well, I don't think I would agree, because I think that energy and being can be the same thing. Energy can be existence, and the law of non-contradiction can be about energy. And so if you say you don't exist, that means you don't have energy. And there doesn't seem to be a logical contradiction there.
I'm talking about energy, though. I mean, I said that you could have you could have like an energy. I mean, like, you can't have 10 like this amount of energy. For example, if you just said that if the universe had however much amount of energy, you couldn't say that it also, in the same way and in the same place, had 1/10 of that amount of energy. So in other words, again, energy is something to which the law of non-contradiction applies, because energy is a kind of being. That's why it applies. But energy is a limited mode of being, and I don't know. So it's not. I mean, energy itself is not the source of of all other being, because energy itself has to receive. It's not being. It can't share what it doesn't have. It just is what it is. See, and what it is a limited mode. That's a very good limited mode.
Well, I don't think so, because being itself can either it is or is not. So it can't. The law of non-contradiction applies to being just like it applies to energy. You could say that energy.
No, the law of contradiction is see, that's being. Being is that. But anyway.
But yeah, I think we can apply the same thing to energy. Energy is the law of non-contradiction. If you have no energy, you don't exist, and if you have energy, you do exist.
You never. It's the law of non-contradiction. It's not that you could have. You can't have this degree of being in the same way and the same thing. It's not like that. It's it's
Well, I'm not sure what you mean, because
okay, what law of non-contradiction?
Because I think that there's, again, we're only applying it to, like you said earlier, to existing things. Like, for example, we can have a leprechaun isn't a unicorn or whatever, but that isn't real. So when we're talking about real properties, energy is the real properties. And so it's only energy. If it doesn't have energy, it's not a real property. And for it to be real, it has to have energy. So energy is existence in that sense.
No, it's not. It's not existence. It's a mode of existence. See?
But yeah, I disagree. I'd say that energy is existence, and I see no problem with that.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I don't. What can I say? I mean, the main thing is, I mean, that as far as I'm concerned, then we're just disagreeing about reality. Then, and just that you think that energy is existence, and that there's no difference between energy and existence, and E equals mc squared, and that you just think energy is existence, and whereas I'm just thinking energy is a mode of existence, and it is but I mean, so again just to clarify what I'm saying this one more time is that I think that existing things have energy. But that what I mean by a mode of existence, let me just try to give you an example. I'm not saying that I have more energy. I'm a mode of existence, but I'm not saying that I have more energy than a fire or more energy. I have, in many ways, I have a greater existence than a fire because I can move around, I can think, but I'm not saying that I have more energy than a fire. Or just to take another example, like the sun. I'm not saying that I have more energy than the sun at all. But I am saying, and I'm not saying either, by the way, that my existence, is just sort of like energy like the sun has, but just in some greater way. I don't think that at all. So to me, these examples of energy, for example, the energy of the sun, the energy of a fire, the energy of an antelope, whereas compared to my much more limited energy, these go to show that I'm definitely not talking about, what I'm calling a mode of existence. What a mode of existence is it's just the fact that I am in a certain way, and so that way like includes thinking, and it's just the way that I am. It's so.
But why wouldn't that same language apply to, for example, the sun? For example, we could say it has existence, and I would say it has more existence than you, proportional to its energy, and it also has a mode of existence. But existence itself, the energy itself, doesn't. It is existence.
Yeah, but I'm disagreeing. I don't think it has a greater mode of existence than a human. So I would never think that myself because, for example, the fact that humans can think, I'd much rather be a human to know and love, and so honestly, give me like President Barack Obama or someone like that. I'd take that. I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing, the thinking and the knowing and loving or whatever. And if you're not like President Barack Obama, then President whatever president. My point is that I see that as a greater, mode of existence because it has, it has all sorts of different and incredibly amazing, ways of being. So I'd definitely, rather than be a bunch of gases on fire, I'd rather be able to argue philosophy with Tom, because I think that's a greater mode of being. I have a certain freedom. I can think of the whole universe in my mind, and I can. But again, I do grant you that I have less energy than the sun. I grant that point. But like if that were the standard, then then we would say that the human being who had the most energy, was in some way like the fullness of what human being is.
Well, I'd just say it has more existence. I wouldn't say fullness or greaterness in that sense. Like, for example, the sun definitely exists more than any
like,
humans.
If a human being, let's say, that some people have a lot more energy than other people, like they don't even need sleep. I have some friends that like sleep 3 hours a night, and they just have this incredible energy, and so you would say that they have more of what you're calling
Existence.
Human existence, where I would say,
well, I don't think I would say human existence. I'd just say existence. So energy.
Yeah, I would say honestly that existence in the human mode, means, you have certain potencies, like knowing, or loving, and so I'm saying that if a human person that has very little energy but still is able to love their neighbor, like actually love somebody, really, and make one sacrificial act for another person, or even forgive one other person, to me that's a human being that is more in the fullness of what it means to be a human being. A human being who actually loves is more fully what it means to be a human being, is existing in a more fully human mode, in a more mode that's proper to humans than a human being that has a lot of energy, but that is filled with has never loved anybody and knows nothing, or something like that. But anyway, so I just think but when anyway, I'm feeling grateful because I was worried though that I was gonna have to be like the theist versus the atheist. And it would be like a big old, just kind of, the main thing about believing in God is that it's no fun if it just is like about winning an intellectual argument. And I definitely haven't won this intellectual argument because we never talked about God. And I was supposed to be the theist, so I know I haven't won the intellectual argument. And so, but to believe in God is not about like trying to kind of win arguments and fight people and just generally be mean to everybody. So
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's valuable
really
just to have the conversations, just because they're interesting conversations, not to try and like beat each
yeah.
other over the head. It's just valuable conversations are important just because they're interesting conversations.
Yeah. So I'd rather be friends and not argue about God, because I always get sad and I feel the same way, by the way, with like Catholics and Protestants and so on. For me, I'd rather try to be friends and find the things that we agree upon as best we can. And then, but it sounds like we agree upon a lot of things, but we have different understanding of energy, and different understanding of some other aspects. But at least we agree that you can't have a universe without energy. I can't imagine a universe without energy. So at least you and me agree about that.
Sure, yeah, that's a good place to wrap up. We've been going for a while now, so yeah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. I enjoyed talking with you, and I'd love to talk with you later sometime.
Hey, you're a great guy, and nobody cares about theologians. You're the only person that would ever email a theologian. So I'm grateful to you, and I mean, I did my best. I'm not very good on my feet, and I don't have that ability that other people have.
Oh, trust
But I
me,
know.
there's some people on my channel who are a lot worse. So you did fine.
Okay. That's good. All righty. Hey, thanks so much, Tom.
Yep.
And I appreciate it. So good night, I guess.
Talk to you later. All right, signing off.
Okay.